And I'll tell you guys since we're all friends. Every character I write has a piece of me in them. Hi, I'm Lee Bardugo. You're listening to the GrishaCast.
Welcome to GrishaCast, episode 111. In this episode, we're going behind the scenes of our favorite novels. This is your host, Eric.
And I'm Terry from Nashville, Tennessee. This is your podcast for all things Grishaverse.
A world created by the mother of the fold and Volcra, Lee Bardugo. Moi savayani casters.
Hiya.
Hi. So let's just dive on into our listener cities.
Okay. First, we have Johannesburg, South Africa.
Oh, thank you, fans out there. And next, we have Schaerbeek, Brussels.
Yay, good job.
Yes, thank you. I worked on that one.
Thank you, both cities, for listening to us.
Exactly. We love you all. And if you haven't been listed yet, just keep listening because you will.
After 111, you'd think we would have covered them all, but we haven't. So just wait.
Well, how many cities are there in the world?
Really?
I know. I was just saying. I mean,
a lot.
As if we have like listeners in every city in the world.
We do.
That'd be amazing. Okay. Anyways, we're not going to even try to banter or any of that because we're going to just get right into it. This is an awesome episode, and we have a very special guest with us. So I would like to introduce to you Erin Stein.
Yay!
Hi, Erin.
Yay. Hello.
So, since I haven't said anything, Erin, will you tell us what you do and what your intricate parts of the Grishaverse are?
I will do my best to explain. But first, I have to tell you that Lee says hello.
Oh my God.
Aww.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Makes me.
I told her I was doing this thing. She's like, tell them I said hi.
Oh my God.
Oh, my heart.
I love it. Okay. Hi, Lee. We love you. Yes.
Okay. So I was Lee's editor and publisher for many of the books, but not all of the books. So she had an original editor who did the first 5, so the trilogy and the duology, the prose and Crooked Kingdom. And right about just before Crooked Kingdom was publishing, her editor left the company. And so I think her agent did a little matchmaking and put Lee and I together. And I had just started Imprint, which was a new imprint at Macmillan. And Lee and I started working together. So it was very exciting for me. Of course, I was already a fan. I had started reading the books when I got there. So when they were like, would you like to work with Lee? I was like, yes, please. Thank you. And I wanted to try and explain a little bit that I was sort of serving 2 roles with her because I was her editor. I was her main editor for the books, but I also was her publisher because I was running the imprint. So, there's the editing of the books part, working with her on the text and the content and the story and all that good stuff, but also my design team and I working with her on the design of the books, which with the Grishaverse is an extra special thing that we get to do. But also when I came in, she was just finishing the duology. This had become a huge runaway success. The series had very much established itself at that point. Six of Crows really brought her a whole new audience and opened it up. So at that point, when I came on board, I was like, okay, we have something big here. And now we need to start thinking about this as a universe. We need to start thinking about it as a brand. And so under my time with the Grishaverse is when we started calling it the Grishaverse officially. We made the logo to call it that. We did the new map, which is now in all the books. We repackaged the first 3 books, to get sort of a new audience, an older audience coming to them. We sort of knew that the show was probably going to happen. I don't think it was a done deal when I came on board, but it was in the works. So we sort of wanted to set everything up so that when the show did come out and all these new fans came to the Grishaverse, that they would know what to do, where to go, what to read.
Wow.
So looked at all the copy, looked at what was on all the covers, and just, sort of gave everything a refresh and set it up for, global domination is what I like to say to Lee, which she enjoys.
That's amazing.
And it's been successful.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So I worked with her on The Language of Thorns. So that was our first book together, and King of Scars and Rule of Wolves and The Lives of Saints and the Severed Moon Journal. But my time officially working on the Grishaverse is now over. During the pandemic, imprint got shut down and we all got laid off, which sucked.
Yeah.
But I still talk to Lee, so that's nice.
Yeah. You have a friend for life. That's incredible. Well, that's amazing. I can't believe that. Like, just to be behind the scenes and all these different, because the Grishaverse is so huge, and I love hearing that there was so much thought put into it, because that is like, of course there is, but like Language of Thorns specifically. Let's kind of dive into that. We actually are covering that right now on our podcast. Yeah, so we have gone from the very beginning, Shadow and Bone, and we have gone all the way through the main novels. We've just finished Rule of Wolves, and we just finished Lives of Saints, and now we're doing Language of Thorns, and so it's really exciting. And Terry hadn't read the Grishaverse; she's reading it as we're going along right now, and it's awesome. But before we got Language of Thorns, I was like, you have to actually buy this book, like, because this book, when you read it, there's art that goes with it that you're not going to get if you get the Kindle version.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about the thought process behind Language of Thorns and like the work that went into the design? And
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So much work went into the design of this book. So this was, we had just started working with Lee, and they had signed up this book but hadn't started working on it at all. So this was sort of our big start, fresh slate with her. And of course, we wanted to impress her. We were nervous about working with the amazing Lee Bardugo, but she was also she really wanted to do this book. This was just like a special project in her heart that she really, really wanted to do. And she knew it wasn't going to be, as big as the novels, but she was excited that the publisher was willing to do it, basically. Because she and I both love the idea of the book that's in the universe, that sort of meta thing. Like, this is the book of fairy tales the characters might be reading and carry around, which, of course, is why we both love the Lives of Saints too. But so Language of Thorns, I love this book. I love the stories. I love what she did. I love how dark they all are.
Yes.
So, like, just as an editor, I was very nervous because I'm like, how am I supposed to edit Lee Bardugo? Like, she knows what she's doing. She doesn't need me at this point. So we were both sort of building that trust, and it was a nice way to start, because it's not quite as epic as King of Scars, for example, which was the next book that we did, and we could sort of get to know each other. And luckily Lee was several books into her career at that point, so she knew how she liked to work. Every editor and every author works a little bit differently. We all like to do notes a little differently. Every writer has a different process. So it was nice that she, at that point, knew what her process was. So I could just say, tell me how you like to work, tell me how you do this, and the best way that I can help you. And how do you want me to give you notes? Some people prefer to have edit letters. Some people like to have the notes in the manuscript. Editors have different preferences about how they do it, but we try to do what the author wants or needs, because it just makes their life easier, of course.
Yeah.
So we were figuring all of that stuff out, but then the real exciting part was the design of the book, because it's a Lee Bardugo book. There's an expectation that it is really pretty, which we were fine with.
Yeah.
And it meant that we could do a little more with the specs on the book, with like tricking out the jacket to make it look pretty and put foil on it and all that stuff. So the creative director at Imprint, Natalie Sousa, had this idea about the art building through each story to that big final image, so that as you turn the page, you got a little more piece of the art, and as you turn the page, you got one more little piece of it. So she came up with that idea and she pitched it to me, and I was like, that sounds amazing and incredible. Like, instead of just putting a couple of illustrations, each page would be unique, and that feels really special. I'm like, but that's going to be a lot of work, so I just want you to remember later that I warned you. And she's like, yes, I know. And of course, later I was like, I told you it would be a lot of work. She's like, yes, it was. So we found the artist, Sarah Kippen, and she did these beautiful pieces. So basically, Sarah would do the finished illustration that you see at the end of each story. And then Natalie went in and broke it up into all the little pieces. And she laid out each spread basically by hand. You know, not by hand in a computer, but
Yeah.
she worked on putting, deciding which piece would be added on each page and putting that all together, which was an incredible amount of work. I also love the cover of this book because this was me going to Natalie and also pitching this to Lee and saying, I want the cover to look like it's embroidered. That was me who
That's
threw that out
awesome.
there. And they're like, okay. I guess we can try and figure that out. But they totally figured it out. I think it looks amazing. And we spent a lot of time picking out the paper. This book jacket is actually, I'm looking at it right now, is actually printed on blue paper, which is very unusual. Like, if you open up your book jacket and look at the back of the jacket, it's actually blue.
He has to grab it.
You got to look at it, because usually it's just like white paper that you then print colors on the front. But this is actually blue paper. So the blue you're seeing on the cover is the paper showing through.
And that's why it looks like it's embroidered.
Mm-hmm. The black and the foil is actually what's applied to this jacket. Which is so cool. A little different. And we also spent a lot of time picking out this texture because we wanted that texture to feel right that's embossed on the paper. The other really cool thing is the interior. This whole book is just like, if you're really into like printing process and bookmaking, you can totally nerd out on this, which is basically the whole book is printed in only 2 colors. That sort of red color and the teal color. There is no black used in this book. There's only 2 colors of ink. And when they combine, it sort of makes the black. But the whole thing is laid out and printed in actually just 2 colors.
I had noticed that. I'm a color nerd. So yeah, when I was looking through that, I was like, because I love those 2 colors together anyway. So I thought it was really fascinating.
Yeah.
Very different.
It is. And I love that when I first started reading it, that the letters weren't black, you notice it right away. And I am, oh my God, I just love it. We just finished reading The Too Clever Fox, and for the first time, I hadn't noticed this before, but watching the bear turn into the wolf, it's the wolf head. That's I started noticing, I was like, wait a minute, that bear looks a little different on this page. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy this. I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see if I'm crazy. And then I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not.
You're not. There's lots of the last story is my favorite.
Oh, mine too.
I mean, it's the big finale. I love it.
It is. It is so good.
All the hard work on it was totally worth it.
Oh, thank you. I mean, this was so much fun. And it was so much fun to go through the process with Lee, where we just, we would picture these ideas. We're like, what if we did this? And she'd be like, okay, let's try it and see how it goes. And we actually, because the jacket printing process is very complicated and has many pieces to it, we actually tested it on the samplers. We made samplers for this book to promote it that they gave out at shows. And we actually used that as a test. We did some of the specs on that, which we don't normally do, but the cost of doing it on just like one proof versus just testing it on the run of special, making the samplers extra special, was worth it. And then we actually got to test it and make sure that it was going to look right when we did it on the jacket and everything, which was kind of cool.
That's amazing. That's a really, I love hearing about the embroidery because I that's so neat. And I love books like this too. I nerd out on this stuff. Lives of Saints is I geek out when someone writes a book, like when I found out that the History, and I call it the History Sancta because I'm sorry, that's
Yes,
what
I'm
I
afraid to try and pronounce it out loud. You
when
should definitely use its proper name.
oh my god, well, I'm just a dork and had like, but when she released that she was coming out with that, I lost it because I was like, that's what I
Well,
love.
that was one of the most fun things is when I first started working with Lee. I said to her, and I said to her agent in a separate conversation, I was like, this book that Alina is carrying around in the trilogy, I want to make this book. And they were like, well, we do too. They're like, yes, absolutely. And I'm like, we have to make this book. And then we have to get the television production. We have to get them to put it on the show. It has to be a prop, and we need to see her carrying it around. So from the very beginning, that was my goal with this book.
That's awesome.
My dreams came true.
Yeah. Well,
And Eric's dream came true.
it did. When we actually got to have the privilege of talking to Lee, I feel like I need to get this as my ringtone, but she could tell how big of a dork I was about this stuff and how much I wanted it, and she said that it was pretty much a love letter to me. I know it wasn't, but she said that, and I will never stop hearing her say that in my head. Okay. So,
Okay.
What's next?
So another book, Rule of Wolves, being the latest and arguably the most involved novel in the series.
That I have ever worked on. Yes.
Yeah. So how was it working on that? I imagine there were lots of difficulties.
Well, I mean, with both these novels, with King of Scars and Rule of Wolves, like at this point, she's bringing together story and characters from 5 previous novels, plus some little hints from Language of Thorns and Lives of Saints.
right.
So it's a lot to cover. It's a lot to make sure we're being consistent, make sure we're matching everything that's come before, but also you want it to stand on its own and be just as enjoyable. I think my cat just meowed behind me. In case you hear anything. So it was a lot of work, but it was so much fun. I mean, the best part about doing all of this is that you're basically in a secret club that, I mean, for a lot of these little secrets, like I would be the only one, like even within the publisher, I would be the only one to know things for a long time while she was working on the books. And so I had to keep these secrets all the time. Because there is a huge, amazing marketing and publicity team who work on these books, and I'd be like, she's working on it and this is coming in, or I'd be like, the draft came in, oh my God, it's amazing. And they'd be like, don't tell me. They're like, I want to wait. I want to read the whole thing when it's done. Like, don't spoil it for me. I'd be like, okay, but it's so good. But
so yeah, checking for continuity, I imagine would be really difficult. And then I know it's part of a duology, but then having to kind of make it a standalone as well. Like if somebody just happened to pick up the book.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, that's what you want them to still be able to pick it up and enjoy it if that's the first book that they've picked up. So I actually, working on these books, my entire editorial team worked on them. It was not just me because we were always working super fast. You know, we gave as much time to Lee as possible to work on these epic drafts of these books. So when it came to us, I didn't have a ton of time. So I would always have someone else reading it while I was reading it. And we would each focus on different things. Like I would have someone focus on the timeline to make sure the days were going in the right order.
Wow.
We would check to make sure, just the magic and all the amazing things that happen are all explained enough and make sense to you if you haven't read anything before. I actually, during King of Scars, I read the first draft that she sent me. It's not her first draft, but it's the first draft she sent me. I read that, and then I went and reread the Shadow and Bone trilogy to have it fresh in my mind, what scenes what was gonna happen, what locations, and then I was able to make a very small list of little tiny details that we wanted to sort of true up or match up or make sure this line of dialogue didn't contradict this other line of dialogue from 3 books ago. And I have to say, it was super impressive. Lee was already extremely consistent. I was reading the first 3 books going, holy, she really already matched so much in here. It was very, very very detailed things that I picked out to just make sure every last speck of detail matched up. Like there was not much. And then, so when I did Rule of Wolves, I reread Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom because we're revisiting a lot of those locations and things. So I did that process for that one. But I also always was lucky enough to have one person on my editorial team who hadn't read all the books yet. So when we were working on King of Scars, especially, I asked her to read a pretty final draft. And I'm like, since you haven't read everything, you can read this fresh. Like I can't. I'm way too deep in this world. Please read it and just tell us if it makes sense. If you can follow it, you're probably going to sense that you don't know everything because there's just so much, but just read it to make sure a person could pick it up clean and be able to still enjoy it and get through it. So we did work really hard to try and make sure it's just as enjoyable, even if you don't get all of the references.
Right.
And I can't even imagine just picking that book up first on its own. Woo.
No.
That'd be a lot.
I mean, it would be a lot. And, I don't know that we 100% achieved that goal, but we did the best we could. I think we got it.
Well, I honestly think that the majority of people that read Rule of Wolves have read everything else, or at least have read like.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, you're definitely going to miss out on a lot if you're not
Exactly
all those fun things that it's when she was working on Rule of Wolves. I don't know if she's going to want me to say this or not. I joked with her and I'm like, you have brought everything together in this book. Like literally everything else has come together. I'm like, this is your Avengers assembling novel of the Grishaverse. It's epic. It's so epic. Everything happens in that book.
It is. I love it. Like I really do. Like, I mean, it is so epic and so many great, fantastic things happen in it. And I was amazed at all of the little details that you were speaking about. I was amazed by that because that's something that like really draws me into a book, and especially like a world. I just like consistency. Especially when like timelines start to break up. That just, I don't know. It kind of like takes away from it. And I just love how Rule of Wolves, like, I mean, everything, it all. And see, you haven't even finished it yet, but we're almost there. Like, it's all about to like connect into this really cool thing. Like, I like lost it at the end of Lives of Saints when we get to read the Darkling story. Like, there, like Yuri is like, I read that, by the way. Like, it came out on my Kindle. I didn't even have the physical book. It came out at midnight. I finished it before I went to work that next morning.
Oh my gosh.
And was like, I was so excited. I know. And
it was pretty amazing to watch the book come out, and people like you read it literally overnight and also read it all the next day. But just the Twitter threads that people were posting as they were reading it and their reactions to things when both books came out, it was so enjoyable for me as an editor just to see the fans reacting to everything I wanted them to react to, like all the good stuff, all my favorite lines. They all picked up on those big twists that she throws in there. There were some amazing Twitter threads that happened.
Speaking about those, exactly, what did you think of the Alina and Kaz cameos? Like, I mean, what can you tell us about it? Because I was telling Terry for the longest time that I really just wanted to know how Alina was doing. Like, I really just wanted to, like,
And
know.
I got there first.
She did. She got there before I did. And she kept on testing me and was like,
where are you at in the book?
Yeah.
Where are you at? Can I say something? Oh, nope. Can't say anything.
And I had no clue what you were talking about. And then, like,
I literally get a phone call, like, screaming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know, like, and
well,
yeah. So
I knew that the cameos would be very popular. I was like, she was putting them in there, but I definitely advocated to have a little bit more in there of those, just to make them a little bit longer, get a little bit more of those characters. I was like, I want a little bit more of them.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure the readers want just a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So I just want the fans to know that I was working for them when I was editing these books.
So would there be like parts that, like, I mean, you would just, I don't know, read something that you didn't think quite worked with that Lee had already sent you and have to tell? Like, I mean, go back to Lee. I'm just like, I know this is kind of off.
I mean, I can't say that I ever thought something wasn't working. I mean, Lee is extremely skilled as a writer. I mean,
Meticulous.
yeah, she's very talented. She's a kind of genius with these characters and these stories, but she also works super hard at it and is constantly improving her craft. I mean, she really is an amazing craft writer. Like, she puts so much into it, so much research into it. So I would read a draft and I would have comments, I would have notes for her, but it wasn't like rip out a third of this book.
Okay.
And it was like, I want a little more of this, I want a little more of that, and a lot of it she kind of already knew also, but to her credit, she wanted notes, she wanted feedback, and wanted to make sure it was all on the right track. And so my job was mainly to just say, I mean, especially with Rule of Wolves, she's like, this book is going to be too long. I'm like, I don't care. I need more. I need more of this. I need more of that. I was basically just asking her for more of everything when I was editing that book.
Oh,
Well, we appreciate you.
we do. So, do you think the apparatus is still alive?
So, also while editing each book, I would get to the apparat and I would be like, Lee, can we please kill off the apparat? He's so evil. He's the worst person. I hate him so much. I just want to kill him off. And she'd just be like, nope.
He's so creepy.
I think he might survive forever. I think he's like a cockroach.
I was just about to say the same thing. Yeah, oh my God.
He's very good at surviving.
I know. I wish he wouldn't.
But he's always there, lurking in the background, doing something.
He is so creepy. God. Okay. Well, maybe one day she'll write his like.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for someday for the apparat to get his due.
We need his eulogy.
Yes, I'll write his eulogy. Oh, that's a good idea. That'd be a fun commercial. So how early in the process did you know that the Darkling would return? And that and that's not with Rule of Wolves, that's King of Scars. Like, because that was huge. Like, I mean, at the very end, you find out, like, I just was like, what? Like, I remember I was listening, like, at that point, I was listening to it, and I was listening to the last chapters for some reason in my car, and I had to, like, pull over and, like, stop and rewind and be like, did I hear that correctly? Because I, like, normally read at home, but for some reason, I really needed to hear it while I was driving. So, but anyways, yeah.
So it was a surprise to you at the end.
Huge. Massive.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good.
Did you not think it would be?
You worry about it. You're like, is it too obvious that this is coming? You want it to be a surprise, but you're never, people guess a lot when they're reading. I'm pretty sure when we first talked about the book, that was the plan.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a big secret I was sitting on for a long time.
I bet. That's crazy.
And we did, that was certainly something that, we worked on and talked about, was getting that ending just right.
Oh, well, you did. It was perfect. Like, I mean.
Well, she did.
Yes. So, my favorite character is Zoya, and like obsessed with her. So, of course, I was very happy at the end of Rule of Wolves, and I literally actually read the very end couple chapters where it describes her like her dress and everything that she wears, the dragon stuff. I love that. I really need one. However,
I pushed for more dress details.
Oh my God. I need more. Get more.
I was like, I want people cosplaying this outfit. More details, please.
Eric will be cosplaying it.
I have
100.
I'm already dying for to see, it's just so beautiful. I want more. Did you know, I'm guessing that since you guys pre-planned so much that the Darkling was going to be coming back, that probably you knew that Zoya was going to be the one that ruled at the end. Okay.
She spilled those beans to me fairly early. We actually, when we were talking about the cover for that book, we talked about it because our initial idea was to do something kind of like dragon scale looking, but then we didn't want to give it away,
Yeah.
obviously. So
Well, I will tell you one thing that I expected to happen that didn't. I didn't want to happen. I was scared. I did not think Nikolai was going to make it through. I thought Nikolai was going to end up dying somehow because she kept on
yeah,
saying like
it's a
there's
risk.
a lot of death and everybody loves Nikolai. And
I was afraid of that too. I don't know if I knew about the death before I read the first draft from her
okay.
about who does die in that book. I might have figured that out the first time I read it.
Yeah.
I read an
I mean,
interview.
there are surprises when I read it. Like, she pitches me sort of like the general big things, but I don't know all the details until I read that first draft that she sends me. And I love reading that because I'm always amazed at what she's done. I'm amazed at how much she's packed in there. I loved reading King of Scars because I did not like Zoya before King of Scars. She's written as the mean girl in the trilogy, so you don't like her. And then I was so impressed that I was totally in love with her and obsessed with her after King of Scars. Like,
Yeah.
I think we did an amazing job getting you to understand her and then be just totally rooting for her by the end of that book.
I feel like you're talking about me right now.
Yeah,
I love
no.
Zoe so much. I'm just
We
like,
had
yeah,
the
I
same
know. I
journey.
get it. Like, she's absolutely incredible. She's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I was really into all the Zoya in both the books.
ugh.
And I love Nikolai. Nikolai was always one of my favorites. So working on these two books in particular was very much a dream for me because I love these characters.
They're amazing. And I really do hope that we get more from the Grishaverse. I know that we don't know, but I just hope there's more.
I
So
mean, I think someday she'll do it.
I know
She's
she
very
can.
busy. So
I know she is. And I mean, and by the way, I love what she's doing. I mean, Ninth House is incredible. Cannot wait
Yep.
for Hellbent to come out. But
I mean, I'm torn because I want her to write other things too. I want her to write so many books for me to read the rest of my life.
just be your
And
personal
not
author.
just Grishaverse, but I also definitely want more Grishaverse. I mean, she definitely set it up at the end of Rule of Wolves for there to be more story. So
Exactly. I agree with you because I feel like for some reason I feel like I either heard her say or something where it was like it seemed like she felt like she closed it up and like that it kind of like had some closure and I was like, "Oh no." Like and then when I read it,
I think if you had to end it there, it would be okay. Like a
Yeah.
lot has happened. We had some major battles and some epic things, and it brought everyone together. And it's like, it is a good place to end. I mean, hopefully it's a good place to bookmark it for now.
absolutely.
And we do come back to it. But I mean, she's right. She tied up a lot of stuff.
She did.
there.
But there's still so much else that could
But
happen. Yeah.
She's
Story's not
created such an intricate world that there is a lot more that could come.
definitely.
Well, the next question has been answered. So moving on.
I love how professional I am.
No hints. I'm just like, I'm going to spell it out for you. Move on
Okay.
to the next question.
Thank you. Well, going on to like my other favorite novel because I feel like they're all, like I can't. Lives of Saints. I was like, I mean, we already kind of talked about this, but I want to get a little bit more into detail about that one.
Sure.
Like how, like the editing process and all that. I thought it was amazing that I mean, I was expecting to have the stories of all of Inej's knives, but then there's all these other stories. Were there any left out? How, like, I mean, were there a lot of them? Did you have to edit any out or tell me about that?
No, I mean, I don't think anything was left out. I mean, we made a list of every saint that was mentioned in
Okay.
all of the books to start. And then she had a couple that she had already thought of. I mean, it was interesting because we were working on this sort of in between King of Scars and Rule of Wolves, and then a little bit alongside Rule of Wolves. So their saints are very present in both of those novels. So it was interesting to know that we were also working on this piece and how, you're getting more of these saints that you're hearing about in this other place, you're getting a little bit of their story and lives of saints. I don't know, it was a very fun, cool thing that they were all interrelated. We're all kind of working on it together. I mean, I think she mentioned when you guys talked to her that she was writing a lot of these stories on set. Like she was doing a million other things and traveling while trying to write these saints stories. So the editing process was a little different because I was getting a couple of stories at a time and editing them and sending them back. And then she would send me some more. And we were just kind of on a rolling basis, sending stuff back and forth to each other. But she kind of already knew what she was doing, and we wanted to make sure we had enough to fill the book. But we definitely didn't leave anything on the table, I don't think, unless she's like come up with some more since then. But it was I would say the biggest task was actually putting them in order, figuring out what order to put the saints in the book, because we wanted it to we didn't want to like lump all the Ravkin saints in one section, and we didn't want all the ladies together lumped together in one section. Like we wanted to try and spread it out and have it move in and out with different kinds of stories. You know, some of them are darker than others, so we didn't want to
for sure
lump all of those together.
That's amazing, because I was under like, I think that book is just really cool, and I guess maybe I'm wrong, but the way that I think that Historia Sancta like goes is like it's keeps being added to as more saints come around or something, like because that's what I thought. Like, I mean, when you
well, obviously
It does.
Alina is in there, so this is not like one
Exactly.
of the first volumes of the Lives of Saints.
Okay, that's another way to look at it. Yeah, volumes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I always thought that was neat because some other people were like, "Well, but why is Alina in it?" I'm like, "Well," because they kept on fighting about saying, "Well, she's holding it in the stories." I was like, "Yeah, but books like that, I don't know." I kept on the one thing that I always went back to was just thinking about in Game of Thrones at the end when like like you just see them writing down the great tales and keep adding pages to these history books, and that's how I imagine Lives of Saints. I think I'm just pretty much trying to see if I'm right and like wanting to
I think that Lee, and not to speak for her, but I'm pretty sure she's said this out loud, that I think she thinks of it as a book that like every child was given, you know, almost like a Bible story is kind of thing, you know, like every child is shown or read the Book of Saints in school or wherever, you know, if they have access to that. But it's just kind of like such a common thing that everyone is exposed to it. And I mean, kind of like a book of fairy tales too, but obviously it's a little more faith-based tome. So I think that you're right. I think that it would be expanded, and certainly there's probably different editions with different versions of the stories and different illustrations. I think all of that could be possible in the wide range of places that presumably would hopefully make books in the Grishaverse.
That's so cool. I hope more of those come out.
Like, think about going into a bookstore in Ketterdam and maybe they have multiple versions of.
Yeah. Fjerdan wouldn't. Well, no, there were Fjerdan.
There are some Fjerdans in there. They just feel they feel like they're special. They feel a little different.
Well, like each country in this world has different versions of history. It could happen there too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the other really fun thing about King of Scars and Rule of Wolves is that she put the saints in there and you get more of, there's a cat in the background. Yeah. But like there's more of the history of where did the saints come from? How did these stories start? Like, were they real people and what were they actually like? And she actually dives into that amazing lore, which I love.
Yes.
And isn't just talked about, like it comes to life in those books, which is so cool.
It is. I love that book so much. I wish I knew more. I wish I love that the show came up with how to write in Ravkin. However, there's 2 versions of the alphabet that have come out. I don't know which one is real, but I wish I actually could type it. I've always that's how much in lore I love it. We haven't finished it
Do you
yet.
see this? Do you see this cat behind my head?
Aw.
For
Hi.
anyone not watching the video, there's a cat behind me playing
Well.
with the Christmas tree in the back.
Is that a Christmas tree?
Well, I mean, at this point, it's a springtime tree. It's there all year.
There we
It's a
go.
decorative tree.
It sure
It's a
is.
decorative foil tree with lights on
It's for celebrating Saint Nikolai.
Yeah. I mean, so the other, I mean, of course, again, with the Lives of Saints, we got to do this incredible design work on it. But this time we were thinking about it also being on the television show. So the cover actually was done, in conjunction with the show design.
Okay.
And but the inside, Natalie again found this amazing artist, Dan Zollinger, who does these gorgeous paintings. And Eliza Veta was the first one that we did. And she is actually still maybe one of my favorites in the book. That painting is so stunning.
Yes.
And originally we were hoping, we did it first and we laid out a couple of pages of the book because we were really hoping that we'd actually see the inside of the book on the television show also.
That'd be cool.
Did not happen.
Yet.
Well, we saw some other version of the inside of the book, which
Yes, we did.
is fine. It's fine, but I was a little annoyed. But the fun part is that if you watch the show twice, like I did, and you're looking very closely at all the little design details, and Nej's necklace that she's wearing with the saint, if you look at that art, it is the art from inside the book.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we caught that.
Oh,
We
yeah.
clocked that.
Thank you for catching it. When I caught it, I was like, oh my God. And I started jumping up and down by myself in my house. And then had
we
to check.
picked those things apart
Yes.
frame by frame.
We clocked all that stuff. I mean,
Excellent.
I literally actually I remember when we were covering the show, I had a still image of they show Kaz's watch for a second, and it's not a normal watch or clock or any way that I would know how to tell time. And I was just so intrigued by it. But I mean, that was as far as it went because I didn't have any I'm the one intrigued by it. Nobody else seemed to care. But I did. And I don't even think anybody else saw it, to be honest. It was it shows him looking at it for a second, but I'm like, that is not numbers.
No, the show, the production design is very good on the show.
It's incredible.
They did a lot of very cool things in the background.
Oh, that's
Speaking
I'm excited.
of,
I can't wait to watch the second season.
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
That's coming soon. That's exciting.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So, speaking of visuals and pictures in books, the upcoming Demon in the Wood graphic novel is the next one that everybody is excited about.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell us about it?
This is bittersweet for me because I started this book with Lee. My team started it and got it rolling, and we got the script done, and we had the artist just starting when we had to leave it. So it's in good hands, but
yeah,
it'll actually be a surprise to me when I get my copy and get to look at the art because we had started that process but hadn't gotten that far. But I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be gorgeous. And I'm hoping that it's amazing and the fans love it. And then there gets to be more graphic novels.
Whose idea was that? Did Lee want to do a graphic? A graphic novel is just so different.
She wanted to do a graphic novel, and we spent some time talking about different possibilities and what to do first and where to start, basically.
Okay.
and I think we sort of agreed that the Darkling is the place to start, and getting this extra piece of story, which of course the short story already existed,
right.
But has now been adapted into a full graphic novel. So it's a different experience, I think, than reading the short story.
So is it more content than the original?
I mean, I honestly don't 100% remember, but I'm gonna guess that it just by the fact that it's so many more pages
Yeah.
that I think there's probably a little bits and pieces of things that you don't get in the short story.
Yeah.
But you also get it all rendered visually. So
that's right.
that in and of itself is a lot more.
I just I can't believe this is me, by the way, just making this connection. A graphic novel, of course. It's not gonna be it's we're gonna be seeing it's like a comic.
Yeah,
it's so
all visual, but it takes a long time to make one. So
I can imagine.
We've been working on it for 2 years. Well, I worked on it for a year, and then somebody else has been working on it for another year.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see Bagra young.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, you did a fabulous picture. Our Grishaversary is every October, which happens to also be in Halloween month. So every episode since we started doing the taping of YouTube that 9 people watch, we dress up in cosplay each week, and it's really fun. And one of the fabulous ones that Terry did was you just did a good version of Bagra.
Thanks.
Oh, I love Bagra.
I did the
Younger.
book
Yeah.
version and not the show version.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one nice thing is we're going to get a little more Bagra in this book because she's part of the story.
I know. Who doesn't want more Bagra? Who doesn't want more cane? I love that cane. I love it. So, would you be interested in playing a little Fjerdan Marry Kill with us?
Sure. I don't think I can get out of it.
Well, you can. You can say no. I won't.
No.
Saying no is allowed.
Well, it's not going to be too bad because we'll play along with you. How about that? So,
Okay. All right.
We'll help you out.
That makes it better.
Exactly. So, Fjerdan Marry Kill, Nikolai, Zoya, Darkling. And what's funny is I just realized that I made these hard, and now I've got...
This is very hard.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this one is 100% easy for me.
Well, then you go.
Well, yeah, you go first.
Okay, so the Darkling is always Fjerdan. Always Fjerdan the Darkling, 100%. Nikolai is a king, so you have to marry Nikolai because then you're going to have riches and be queen, and then Zoya can go bye-bye.
Wow.
You just broke my heart.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
That was cutthroat.
It was, but
I'm not as much of a Zoya stan as you are, though, so...
I know.
Yeah, clearly.
So, it's not easy.
And I'm just being practical because, Nikolai is king, so, you can't...
Well, I
up.
am practical, but in a different way, I think.
Okay.
I would say that I would kill the Darkling, except can you really kill the Darkling? So,
we did once, it didn't work.
Try, at least.
Try.
Maybe kill some form of him. And then I think I would marry Nikolai because, not just because he's a king, but because he will keep me well fed and entertained.
True.
Because I think he is hilarious and he
Mhm.
likes good food, as do I.
Ooh.
And then I think I would Fjerdan and Zoya. I think that would be a good time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't want to answer this one. It was my idea too.
Yeah, you came up with it, so you definitely have to answer it.
Okay.
I was gonna say Zoya, Fjerdaning Zoya would be hot, but I didn't think anybody would get the joke. Dragon hot. Come on.
All
right, moving on.
No,
It would be smoking hot, actually.
Smoking hot.
I would giggle. I'd be like, what do we want to do? I don't know what to do. Sorry. I love you too much. And also not into that. But you're beautiful. Gorgeous.
Well, then I know your answer.
Well, I couldn't do... Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't. There'd be no way. I could... No. Fjerdan would not happen. I would definitely not be able to kill her, so I'd have to marry her. However, I'm thinking... Well, I'm not... I'm just assuming I'm so much like Zoya, but I'm really not. I just realized that. I was like, oh, well, how are two best friends going to get along for life? And then, yeah, well.
Hi.
Well, you are in the Grishaverse.
Hello.
Hi.
Wow.
Gosh.
I
Eeps. I love Zoya. You
know.
And I love you. You are not. We're in the Grishaverse. Okay.
Okay, so answer.
I am. I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to Fjerdan now.
Yeah.
Darkling or Nikolai? I think. I mean, I know Darkling does sound fun, but you know what? I bet Nikolai would be some fun too.
Oh, yes.
Like,
I think so, yeah.
really. So, like, I think I'm definitely going to go for Fjerdaning Nikolai because the Darkling, I think you're right. I don't. Yeah, he's in a tree right now, anyways. So, he's holding the world together. He's busy. He wouldn't be able to. Okay, stop, Eric.
Yep.
Okay, moving
Not
on.
that kind of show.
No, it's not. But it's fun to
You
take
told
it
me
there.
it was family friendly.
It is.
At some point, we will have to do like a
We need to do an adults only.
yes.
Grishaverse
We have to do like a
conversation.
PM version at some point.
Well, that's what we tried to do, and then we got complaints in the beginning.
No, a separate
oh.
one with like a disclaimer. Like,
Oh, well, yeah, we're
Yeah.
doing. Well, that'll happen when we do 9th house. But that's I know. Grisha.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
we'll do.
that
Yeah,
we'll
I
have
got.
to do.
Okay, so we've got another one.
Okay.
And this one, it's really not that different. I just realized I'm way too involved. It's two of the same character, just another added one. Okay, well, still, let's go for it. Kaz, Nikolai, and the Darkling. Yeah, I realized I was like, I have two of the. I put Nikolai and the Darkling again, and just put Kaz in there. But
yeah, my answer is the same.
the same. So you're gonna kill Kaz?
Yes.
Well, you're easy to please. Jeez, you'd kill Kaz, really?
Yeah,
You?
because of the other two options, just from process of
Yeah.
elimination.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. I mean, Kaz wouldn't touch you
Also.
anyways.
See?
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you could marry him, I guess, but
yeah,
And be queen
would
of the
be-
dregs.
challenging, I think.
yeah.
I think, yeah.
You're right. I really expected that to be a little bit harder than I
I
thought.
think I would still marry Nikolai.
Yeah, sounds like a good time. Okay. Well, thanks for playing that with us.
Sure.
I play all these random crazy Grishaverse games by myself, or not all by myself.
Not by yourself.
Not by myself. But we've come up with some fun ones.
Yes.
Like, well, we're not going to do it now, but my favorite is What If, which is like taking like some part of the Grishaverse and then trying to see what the story would be like. For instance, we did What If Zoya didn't, like at the end of Shadow and Bone, what if she didn't go to Alina's side and stayed with the Darkling? How would the
Ooh.
rest of the Grishaverse, what would happen with the story? And like,
Yeah.
it's a whole discussion. I love that. So, anyways, as if I had to like prove to you I'm a big Grishaverse fan.
You did.
Anyway,
You're hosting an entire show about the Grishaverse.
yeah.
We spend
I'm convinced.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Secret's out.
we spend how much time within our lives
I know.
do we okay. So kind of going back, while editing Lee's work, was there ever a scene or plot that shocked you because you didn't see it coming?
You can name a few too.
Yeah, I mean, yes, a lot of things have shocked me. But that's always a good thing. Like I don't want to see it all coming because then I would feel like she didn't do her job. Like I want there to be surprises and twists, even when I know like the big thing that's coming at the end. I don't know all the little things along the way. I mean, I was always a little more, I don't know. I just like the Shadow and Bone trilogy characters stuck in my head a bit more than the Six of Crows characters. So Nina was a little bit more of a surprise to me the whole time. Just because I feel like I hadn't crawled inside her head as much as a reader, but then it was so fun to work on these books. I mean, she is, of course, an amazing character, and I was really glad that we got all this extra time with her because she's amazing. That scene in King of Scars in the woods where she's mourning and you cry. At least I cried, but the first time I read it, I was like, I'm not crying enough. I need to cry more. That was my editorial note. I need to cry more here. And I didn't know, everything that was going to happen with Hannah from the get-go. So that was a discovery for me as I read through both books too, which was delightful.
Amazing.
And wonderful. So yeah, I mean, definitely there's so much in these books that even when we've discussed, the broad strokes of it, all those little details, I didn't know until I read it.
Yeah.
That's one of the
That's
reasons
why it was always so fun to get the first draft.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I enjoyed her book so much, is because Eric can say too that I pick things apart and I can guess what's going to happen, and I guess focus on these like finite details, and I have a hard time reading because I get so bored halfway through because like I know it's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. It's so unoriginal. But reading through her books, I had no idea, and all these like shocks and twists would come up, and it really drew me in, and I applaud her for that, for coming up with all these different ways to tell stories and all these different twists that you just don't see coming.
Yeah. And I think the way she brought all the cameos in Rule of Wolves was very cleverly done, because it could have felt stuck in there or shoehorned in there, and it didn't. It felt like a natural part of the story. I guess actually, even though I knew what was going to happen for Zoya at the end of Rule of Wolves, I didn't know how it was going to happen until I read that scene. And so that was a surprise to me.
Yeah.
What happens in that room, what Nikolai does.
It's beautiful.
It is. But I was thinking about this when I was trying to like refresh my memory on all these books before we talked, because I was terrified of not remembering something. But Nikolai, like, is he doing it just for her? Is he doing it for the country? Is he doing it a little bit for himself because he doesn't really want to keep doing this anymore? Like, her characters are so well drawn, so well developed, that it's kind of all of those things. Like, they're so complex. It's amazing.
Yeah.
He wanted to be Sturmund.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's there's definitely a selfish element in there, right?
Oh.
But also a very unselfish element. Like, he is definitely doing it for the country as well.
Yeah.
And he still gets to be king.
He's so...
Yeah. He still gets to wear his fancy suits.
He does, and I appreciate all of them. And all his, like, he's so funny. I like the surprises for, like, I just loved Rule of Wolves was full of them for me. Like, I was still getting over Alina's cameo, that when Kaz's cameo came up, I had no, like, that was probably the biggest surprise, because I just had no clue that was coming, like, at all. And it was just like, oh my God, Lee, you've put every single person. And I'm like, I know, I'm like screaming to a window, and my dog, like, that this is so cool. And yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. So I love that.
And I wasn't totally sure what she was going to do with the Darkling, with the heretic at the end of Rule of Wolves.
That was a surprise too, to be honest. I did not expect him to be the reason that the Grishaverse is still together. Like, really? Like, that is intriguing.
That's why he's such a great character. He's so up and down. You love him, you hate him, you love him, you hate him.
I mean, I hate him all the time. He's a bad guy.
But he's consistent
he
too.
Is. But the mark of a good writer is where you have these moments where you're like, oh, and you kind of feel this like slight empathy for them, and you have to remind yourself like they're bad.
Yeah. Actually, one of his chapters is my favorite chapter in Rule of Wolves, because he's so evil.
Which one is that?
The one where he rips that guy's heart out of his chest.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I'm a little bloodthirsty.
Same.
It's awesome.
I was like, yes, his true self is coming out. Like, I know it's a little controversial. I've seen a lot of fans love and hate that he came back in the book.
Really?
And yeah, some people didn't want to read his point of view at all, or felt like they felt like it had been put to bed and they didn't need him to come back. But
Oh my God.
I loved that he came back, and I loved getting those couple chapters inside his head.
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, well,
I love his sort of super ancient perspective on other people, and how much he regards himself above everybody else. And
yeah.
Well, I'm the
You know-
vampire girl, so I kind of get that from him. I get that, like, I've lived 1,000 lives
yeah,
character from him, and so that kind of speaks to my goth soul.
And he has, and one thing that I always that I think though is he's very consistent, and like if you think about all the bad things he's done, like he really truly like he has done it always for. He's always tried to have a home for Grisha. He's always tried to like make, in a way, I don't know.
He thought
that's
what he was
his
doing. was okay.
rationale. Sure.
It's like I guess my perspective is like his.
I think he took it a little farther than necessary.
Oh, of course, absolutely. I mean,
I think there's some power and ego in there as well. I mean, but that's what I find so interesting about the ending and what she did with him, because some people read it as redemption for him, but I don't think it is. And I don't.
Oh, it's punishment.
I think it is punishment, and I think it is appropriate punishment. And just because he accepts it doesn't mean that it's redemption.
Right.
But I think it's so fascinating, because if you really think about it, it's like, what do you do with him? And she's made it so complex. It's like, it kind of brings up capital punishment, and what is the appropriate punishment for someone like him who has committed such atrocities and yet is still around.
And there's people
But
that
of
praise
course,
him.
yeah. Well, yeah, he has followers.
It's
He has people who are devoted to him. And I mean, she just does such an amazing, it's a complete fantasy world, but she's brought all these real life themes and politics and stuff in there in a gentle way, but it's there, and it's what makes it feel so layered and complicated.
oh yeah, and that's what's amazing about her writing in the Grishaverse in general, is just how layered it is, and like how, I don't know, it's just all perfect. Like I keep going back to that Yuri story, but like that was just like, I mean, just going back to that moment of in Shadow and Bone when Novokibirsk gets just like, just gone. I just thought that was so cool to all of a sudden be like there and hear someone else's perspective, and I don't know. I thought it was so neat. Anyways,
Yep.
so
Yep.
it worked.
Good stuff.
So speaking of Novokibirsk,
Ooh, yeah. Talking about, okay, so like I love maps. Like love,
Yeah.
love maps.
obsessed.
Because it's lore. Like I want as much of it as I can get. And the maps have been my favorite thing. And then when the King of Scars maps came out, I about just lost it. I was like, this is beautiful, and it's what I'd always wanted. I just wanted more and more detail, and it's exquisite. It's beautiful. I just wanted to know, like, I mean, what, like, even if you didn't have anything, like, what parts do you play? Like, do you?
The part I played was saying, let's make a new map.
Great idea.
And then really, like, credit goes again to the design team and really to the artist on this one. Sveta did an incredible job, and we kind of gave her, I was actually texting one of our designers, Ellen Duda, earlier today, and I'm like, do you remember what all the little symbols are that we put on the map? Because you guys handled it, and I don't even really remember everything, but we had sort of just like given her a list of things that she should include, and obviously the cities that should be included. And she just kind of went from there, like all these amazing creatures in the sea and all this. Like a lot of these details came from the artist. She just like did everything we wanted her to do and made it really beautiful.
That's awesome. I love the whale that's all the way in the bottom left corner.
I do too.
He's so cute.
I love all the little creatures that she added.
Yeah, we need to have a story about him.
We need Ismrude.
Yeah, our obsession. You'd have to listen to our past story. Like, we have a little obsession with Ismrude. I know he's like, you probably don't even know who. Like, I mean, Ismrude.
Deep dive, deep cut.
It's a very like
One sentence.
It's one sentence in the entire story. It's in Ruin and Rising.
Ruin and Rising.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's in the very beginning of Ruin and Rising. She tells the like story of like how like in the White Cathedral, and it starts off with like a fable kind of that there might be this giant worm named Ismrude that might eat you if you go down the right.
It eats the earth, and so he makes these
The
tunnels, and they're hiding in his tunnels.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we became obsessed. Like we went on this
Sure.
whole big long tangent of giving him a voice.
When we read it for the first time, it
exploded.
Well,
it
yeah.
did.
So we'll have to talk to Lee. Like, we're gonna need another book of stories that includes this worm.
Oh my god. Yeah. Ismrude's great.
Yeah.
He is. He actually, like, I mean, we do have like a cartoon version of him already. Well, me dressed up as him.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny.
I feel like, I don't know. Like, Lee puts all these little tiny details. The
Yeah.
other fun thing about the imprint books, we did this in every imprint book, but it was especially fun asking Lee to do this. On the copyright page at the beginning of every book, at the bottom, there's a little book curse, which is a really ancient tradition that they used to do when books were like literally handmade and hand painted. So there would only be one in a library. Then they would put these curses in them to sort of try and prevent you from stealing them. Like, if you steal this book, horrible things will happen to you. So I like had read about that and I fell in love with the idea. So every imprint book has a book curse in it. And I think Lee's are among the most entertaining because they're basically all little tiny micro mini stories that she wrote for each
That is
book.
so cool. Okay, I don't even.
You have a book literally right
There's
next to
still
you.
I know,
something
but
for
I
you
don't
to
know if this is
discover.
an imprint one. This is an imprint one.
Yeah, we literally
Oh
just
yeah,
talked
there's
about
one in
it.
there. Yeah.
In fairy tales, clever thieves are rewarded for their integrity, but purloin this book and be hounded forever by a gingerbread golem, who will hide your keys and spoil all your dinner parties by talking about the boring dream she had last night. Cool. Oh my god.
Yep.
Okay, our listeners are going to be fascinated by that
Check
because
all
Go
your-
find all the book curses.
Yep, check all your books.
I want all of them.
You have
Yes.
all of them.
I know.
You have them all. You just haven't yet discovered them.
I have not. That is so cool. Okay.
There's even one in the journal. There's even
Is
one
there really?
in the
Wow.
Severson.
Okay.
We really put in everything.
Well, now you're going to go on a treasure hunt afterwards.
I am.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so neat.
Enjoy, because they're
I
delightful.
will. I absolutely will. Because I actually now have extra content that I don't know that I
You didn't
have
even
my
know you
hands on.
had.
Yeah. I've got
Aw.
I know. Okay, I'll calm down over here.
Please don't.
No, I love that you're so excited about it because I was very excited
Ugh,
to sneak those little secrets in there.
that's awesome.
Okay, so what character do you relate to the most in the Grishaverse, and what type of Grisha would you be?
Oof,
It's so hard.
it is.
I mean, I don't know if relate is the right word, but I'm definitely Team Zoya at the moment. I feel
Woo!
like
Sorry.
working on those two books really sold me on Zoya. I'm just like so into her now.
Yeah.
And I do think that we share a little bit of a practical nature, and maybe a tendency to roll our eyes at things. So yeah, I'd have to go with Zoya. And I was trying, I always want to say summoner because of course being a sun summoner or like the Darkling seems really the best. But I actually think it would be extremely cool to be a Durast and be able to fabricate like jewelry and clothes and things because I am a very visual person, but I'm not very good at making a thing that looks like the vision that I have in my head, which is why I loved having such an amazing design team to work on these books, because I'd be like, I want it to look embroidered and they would make that happen. But I feel like if I had some duress skills, I could actually make some of that stuff.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Oh,
So
well. So, if you could, okay, so yeah, I love this question. If you could live in any other fandom besides the Grishaverse, which would you choose? And this is just assuming that you read other fantasy. So, like, for instance, I'll let you know that Lee and I both picked that we're going to Elfheim.
sure,
But
sure.
yeah, love Holly Black.
I don't trust those fairies, I have to say.
Oh my god, I'm obsessed with fairies. I love it. Is this a question you can answer? Do you like? I mean, do you read it? Like, I mean, it's hard
I
too.
guess it is hard, and I probably would throw back to something I read as a kid,
Ooh.
which is Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern books, because you got to ride dragons in them,
Okay.
and I really thought that was cool.
Huh.
So I would probably go that, but also a more modern thing. I mean, the reason we're even talking is because you had Liz Huerta on for The Lost Dreamer, which is another book that I had actually acquired and edited. And I would love to live in the dream that she has created.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, those books were beautiful.
I can't wait for more of that. That's
Yeah. I mean, I really hope that everyone buys that book and reads it and keeps buying her books, because she has so much story and so many ideas planned. Like, if it's successful, she's going to keep telling stories in that world and in different times. Like, I feel like she could write stuff forever.
Yeah.
I have a total crush on her.
She is that amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's magical. I mean, when I was lucky enough to meet her in person, before I bought the book, and just meeting her in person, it was like she just walked in my office and it was like, a magical person is here.
Yeah. She really is. She's so sweet and just so like genuine and so like I love it. And I love that book. It's incredible. And I felt really special that we got to read it before.
Yeah.
Like that was like my first arc. By the way, when we interviewed Lee and she mentioned the word arc, I had no clue what she was talking about.
Oh yes, our publishing jargon, yes.
Yeah. And I was just like, what was she talking? I was like, I just didn't know.
We also have multiple terms for the same thing. So it could be called an arc, it could be called an ARE, it could be called a galley. It could be like, all of those things mean the same thing. It's just an advanced copy of the book.
Yeah, it was so cool. Like, I mean, to finally read one, and I loved Liz's, and it was so good. And then to be there for the book coming out, and yeah, that's.
I want to see that visually. Like, I want to see it on the screen somehow.
Yes.
It would be absolutely magical.
It's a beautifully described world. The dream is just really cool.
It's stunning. I mean, her descriptions are fabulous.
Incredible.
I love that book so much because it was as a kid, I loved these ancient civilizations and empires that you learn about, as the Maya and the Aztec. And I've been to a couple sites in Mexico, but like reading her book was the first time that I felt like it came alive, that I could actually imagine people living amongst these temples and going about their daily life, and the magic that she infused in everything. Like, that's what excited me so much about these books, is I feel like I'm actually walking around in one of these worlds for the first time.
I absolutely agree. It is really like, it's very vivid. The colors, I just felt like I could feel them. And
I feel like you don't often read a book and come away thinking about how
colorful
about colors, and I feel like you do after you read that book.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And by the way, when you mentioned, so I'm not familiar with the world that you said you wanted to live in. But I'm reading Dragonlance right now, and like,
a little different.
It is, but like, yeah. But it reminded me of what you were saying. I was like, I wonder if they're familiar. Like, I mean, I don't know. Dragonlance is very interesting. Supposedly, Lee got inspired from those books is what she says a long, long, long time ago. I don't know how true
I mean,
that
I
is.
feel like when I was a teen, there were a lot of those, sort of like D&D inspired
Books.
Dragonlance
Mhm.
novels, things. And then the books I was talking about, the Anne McCaffrey books, were also sort of very popular back then, but it was more like, it kind of grew out of all those 70s.
Okay. Well, I'll have to check it out.
fantasy novels. I mean, I will say I mentioned this to Lee once and she's like, oh, I didn't like those books. It's like, well, I did. But Dragon Flight is sort of like the first book to start with. And it is very similar to many, I would say, YA fantasy books. You
Okay.
know, there's a girl and she is special and can talk to dragons. And so, gets pulled out of her Cinderella-like circumstances and
Oh,
does in fact get to ride some dragons.
play. It sounds cool. I love it. So this goes back to kind of the lives of saints. Do you have a favorite saint? I mean, well, you kind of mentioned that you did. Did you say Elizabetta? Or
Yeah, I really do like that lady. But I also just had favorite pieces of art in the book.
yes.
I mean, I do like Sancta Valentin. But I think my favorite piece of art in the book is Dimitri, which is the skeleton
Yeah.
kneeling. This is my favorite.
I know. And please come back
I love
for our
it.
Grishaversary because that is one of my costume ideas.
We spent so much time talking about that illustration.
And that
I love
story.
it so much.
Just like, hey, Mom, how's it going?
Well, I love that it's a keyhole that is the border. And like that's just really cool. And that, I just feel bad. It's
one of my favorites.
yeah. Okay.
And also Alina's illustration we spent a lot of time on, getting that little rainbow shimmer in her light there.
Well, that was
I don't know. I kind of love all of these stories, but all for different reasons. Like, I love the guy who got stones piled on him.
Yeah, that's
It's
funny, sad.
But it's kind of great. And also the guy who never stops talking.
Oh, yes. That's Lumen,
right?
isn't it?
That one's that one's fantastic.
Yeah. Some of them
Lucan the Logical.
Not Lumen. The stones, that picture I'll never forget. Just because I just like
we were like, what do we put in this picture?
Yeah,
you pretty much have to show them with stones on top. Like, what are you gonna do?
It's a lot of stones. And just some poor little legs.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So this is a fun one. But it might take I love thinking about this stuff. If you were a Sancta, what would you be the Sancta of? It could be your favorite things.
Well, Lee already took being the Sancta of the book.
Correct.
So I can't do that.
No.
I think I would be the patron saint of shopping.
Ooh.
I do a lot of shopping.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with cheesecake. That is my title. Just letting y'all know. Just keep on putting it out there.
I'll stick with crafts that never get finished.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that one. I actually really like that one.
That's my greatest talent in life. I collect crafts that will never get finished.
Yeah. Chris probably has something to say about that.
I've got a lot of those. I would have probably prayed to you at some point. Yep.
That's awesome.
All right. And to wrap this up, what advice would you give aspiring authors?
Oh my goodness. This one's so hard because everyone hears it, but it's true. Like, you really just have to write. Like, the most important thing is to write. Don't think about it. Stop worrying about what you're going to do with it. Just start writing. That is honestly the hardest part, is just getting words down on a page.
Practice.
You can't do anything with them until you get them on the page. And then you can rewrite them and you can edit them and you can throw them out and start over, but you have to get something down.
That's some good advice. Do you have anything do you have any projects coming up that you can talk about?
I'm doing a little bit of freelance editing, and I'm actually trying to get some writing done myself.
That's awesome.
the hardest part is getting something down on the page.
Well, you just gave yourself some great advice.
Yep, I knew whereof I spoke. So yeah, I don't know. I'm taking a little time in between and trying to figure out what's next, but still dabbling in a few things. And
well, let us know, please. We are always here. We love it, and we would love to be able to like talk again, continue this conversation. I know we've already talked for over an hour, so you're probably exhausted, but
it's easy to do.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and doing this with us. So,
oh my gosh, thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I love talking about the books I worked on.
I know.
You know,
I love talking about the books you worked on. And I'll just keep reading them.
Please do. It's so nice to have, like, as editors, you don't often get to interact with the readers. Do you know what I mean? Like the authors out there, the authors talking to the readers, and that as it should be. But we put so much work into it too. It's nice to get that feedback and see how much people enjoy it and love all the work that went into it. I mean, I have stood next to Lee at a bunch of her signings. People may have seen me there, the tall, awkward person just slapping her. But I love doing that because then I get to hear what everyone says when they come up to her. And these books mean so much to people. And for all of us on her team working on it, like, she was just as inspiring to us. Like, she inspired us to make these books beautiful, beautiful things because we knew her fans would appreciate it and would love it. And that is just like the best feeling, the best kind of thing to work on.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Without you, these books wouldn't be here. Like, you were a part of them. I know that, like, and just so thank you for all the work that you've put into these novels, because seriously, you have, like, that's a huge job. You sent me a list of what you did. Like, I asked, and like, I have never scrolled down so much. I was like, oh my, whew. So thank you, because you have definitely, like, I mean, you helped shape the Grishaverse as well, and I just think it's incredible that you were a part of the team. So just thank you. It does inspire a lot of people. It helps a lot of people. So, and you were a part of that. So thank you so much.
It was such a good time. It's a good team to be on.
Well, hopefully we'll hear some more next time. And
Yes.
Well, we will see you next time, Erin. Thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, we'll see you next time. So, okay. Well, we don't have any GrishaCast news, which we don't have any of that. And we just had an incredible episode. So next week, we will be returning to the Language of Thorns and discussing The Witch of Duva. Woohoo! So, we will see you all next week. Long live the Grishaverse.
Like, we're at the end of the hour, so my voice is a little husky. A+.
No mourners.
No funerals.
This has been GrishaCast. Connect with us on the web at GrishaCast.com. Send an email to info@GrishaCast.com.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at GrishaCast.
And thank you to our amazing staff, Chris, Alex, Michelle, Sid, and Chloe.